It's story time. The Swan Princess. Once upon a time, in a very peaceful kingdom, there lived King William, who always wished for a child. One day, the king was blessed with a baby girl, newborn Princess Odette. In a nearby kingdom, there lived Queen Huberta, mother of the young Prince Derek. Both parents decided to betroth their children in the hopes of uniting their kingdoms. The evil sorcerer Rothbard had only one goal in his life, and that was to take King William's kingdom. Threatened by Odette's birth, he decided to master a type of dark magic known as the Forbidden Arts. But before he made his move, he was attacked by King William's men and stopped. Instead of sentencing him to death, King William spared Rothbard's life and he banished him from the kingdom. However, before leaving, Rothbard swears that he would get his powers back and steal everything from the king. Every summer, King William and Queen Huberta would have Odette and Derek met with the hope of them to fall in love. As children, this fails miserably, but when the years passed and the two reached adulthood, they fell in love. Prince Derek announced that the wedding preparations can begin, but when he expressed his wishes to marry Odette only for her beauty, she rejected him. The princess wanted to be loved for her inner and not just her outer beauty. At that moment, Princess Odette and King William left Huberta's kingdom, and then something terrible happened. They were ambushed by the vengeful Rothbard, who kidnapped Odette and fatally injured King William. Prince Derek arrived on the scene, and William told him with his dying breath that they were attacked by a great animal and that Odette is gone. When Derek heard that, he was shocked, and his mother Huberta tried to encourage her son to find another princess. However, Derek was determined to find Odette, believing that she was still alive. He and his best friend Brumley practiced hunting every day in preparation for facing the great animal. Elsewhere, Rothbard kept Odette at his castle at Swan Lake. He cast a powerful spell that turned Odette into a swan during the day, and to temporarily turn into a human at night if she was on the lake under moonlight. Every night, Rothbard asked Odette to marry him so he can rule William's kingdom, but she always refused. During her captivity, she becomes friends with a turtle, a frog, and a puffin. One day, Puffin and Odette, in her swan form, decided to fly together to find Derek. By chance, they stumbled upon Derek in the woods. However, Derek thought Odette was the great animal and he tried to kill her. He started chasing her to the Swan Lake, where he witnessed Odette change from a swan to a human. Both shared a loving reunion, and Odette told Derek that the spell can only be broken by a vow of everlasting love. Derek invited Odette to his mother's ball the following night with hopes to declare his love for her. The enchanter, however, heard the whole conversation. The next night, Rothbard imprisoned Odette in her swan form and set Bridget in the form of the human Odette at Huberta's ball. Bridget danced with Derek, and he was unaware of her true identity. At the Swan Lake, Odette's friends managed to free Odette from the dungeon. She flew to Huberta's castle, but she was unable to warn Derek in time because Derek made a vow of everlasting love to the wrong girl. At that point, Rothbard entered the room and told Derek the truth. Derek raced after Odette back to the Swan Lake, where Odette transformed back to her human form. At that moment, Odette falls soulless in Derek's arms, but not before she told him that she loved him. Derek was furious and confronted the great animal. While they were fighting, he fired an arrow into the great animal's heart and destroyed him finally. Derek went to Odette and he confessed that he loves her for her kindness and courage. At that moment, Odette returned to life and the spell was broken. The next day, the two were married and they lived happily ever after. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Shrek. Long time ago, in a faraway swamp, there lived an ogre named Shrek. He was feared by all the people in the land of Duloc, so that's why he chose to enjoy his solitude at his precious swamp. The land of Duloc was ruled by a Lord Farquaad, a very tiny and a bad man. To become king, he had to marry a princess, and Fiona was that unlucky beauty. Away at the tower, Princess Fiona stayed locked away from the people. There was a deep, dark secret behind that story, and no one but her parents knew of it. Fiona transformed every night into an ugly ogre, and only a true love's kiss would break that spell. Each day, she hoped to find her true love. One day, the heartless ruler of Duloc, Lord Farquaad, banished all the fairy tale beings from the land. All of a sudden, Shrek's swamp had been swamped with all sorts of fairy tale creatures. One of the creatures explained Shrek what had happened. Shrek decided to set out and find the Lord Farquaad so he can convince him to take the fairy tale beings back where they belong and leave him alone. On his journey, Shrek meets a funny-looking mule named Donkey, and the adventure continues with the company of his new and very loud friend. When Shrek and Donkey reached Lord Farquaad's land, Shrek had been challenged by the soldiers of the Lord. However, he used his force and beat all of them. By that time, Lord Farquaad knew that Shrek was the only one who can help him become a king. The only way for Shrek to get his swamp back was to rescue Fiona along with the talking mule, Donkey, and return her to Lord Farquaad so he can marry her. Determined to save the home of the creatures, not to mention his, Shrek accepted the deal of Farquaad and sets out to rescue Princess Fiona, who was waiting her true love in a tower guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. The two friends continued their journey to the castle where the princess was. As Shrek climbed to the top of the castle, he saw Princess Fiona lying in the bed waiting for her true love's kiss. All of a sudden, he grabbed her and started to run from the breathing dragon. Throughout the day, many things had happened. However, as the night fell, Fiona didn't want Shrek and Donkey to see her transformation, so she insisted they camped out the night. Something strange had happened to Shrek that day. He started to feel these unusual emotions towards Fiona. They were increasing every second. Shrek was falling in love. When Shrek tried to get some rest from the long day, Donkey decided to check on the princess, but instead of a princess, he saw a huge green ogre in Fiona's clothes. Donkey tried to scream, but Fiona covered his mouth and begged Donkey not to tell Shrek. At that moment, Shrek woke up and overheard Fiona saying, "Who'd love a green ugly ogre?" thinking that those words were meant for him. So he got disappointed and went back to sleep. By the morning, Lord Farquaad arrived at the camp to take Fiona at his palace. As they stood there, he told Fiona that he wanted to marry her the other day. However, scared of her curse and the fact that the Lord didn't know her secret, Fiona insisted to get married that same day before sunset. Since the deed was done, Lord Farquaad told Shrek that all the fairy tale creatures were gone from his swamp and that he can go back home. Disappointed from the unrequited love, Shrek got back to the swamp with Donkey. Shrek loved the princess, but he thought that she didn't love him back, and when Donkey analyzed the whole situation, he explained the real reason behind Fiona's behavior. When Shrek realized that Fiona was that green ugly ogre, he hurried to stop the wedding. Shrek got there, and he told Fiona that Farquaad wanted to marry her just to be king. Farquaad denied it, of course. At that precise moment, sunset hit the land, and Fiona started to change into an ogre. Lord Farquaad was disgusted by the looks, and Shrek was amazed. Shrek went to her and kissed her, and then Fiona started to turn into true love's form. She was so confused that she was still an ogre, but Shrek thought she had never been more beautiful. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Who is happy? The peacock and the crow. A crow lived in the forest and was absolutely satisfied in life. But one day he saw a swan. "This swan is so white," he thought, "and I am so black. This one must be the happiest bird in the world." He expressed his thought to the swan. "Actually," the swan replied, "I was feeling that I was the happiest bird around until I saw a parrot, which has two colors. I now think the parrot is the happiest bird in creation." The crow then approached the parrot. The parrot explained. I lived a very happy life until I saw a peacock. I have only two colors, but the peacock has multiple colors. The crow then visited a peacock in the zoo and saw that hundreds of people had gathered to see him. After the people had left, the crow approached the peacock. "Dear peacock," the crow said, "you are so beautiful. Every day, thousands of people come to see you. When people see me, they immediately shoo me away. I think you are the happiest bird on the planet." The peacock replied, "I always thought that I was the most beautiful and happy bird on the planet. But because of my beauty, I am entrapped in the zoo. I have examined the zoo very carefully, and I have realized that the crow is the only bird not kept in a cage. So, for the past few days, I have been thinking that if I were a crow, I would happily roam everywhere." Moral of the story: person who is satisfied with what she has is the happiest person in the world. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. A wise old owl. Once upon a time there lived an old owl in an oak. Every day he would see a lot of incidents happening around him. Yesterday he saw a boy who helped an old man carry his heavy basket. Today he saw a very young girl shouting at her mother. The more he saw, the less he spoke. As time passed by, he spoke less and heard more. He heard people talking and telling different stories. He heard a woman saying that an elephant jumped over a fence. He also heard a man saying that he had never made a mistake. The old owl saw and heard about what happened to a lot of people. Some became better and some became worse. However, the old owl had become wiser and wiser each day. Moral of the story: observe more, listen more, and talk less. This will make you a wise person. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Hard work always pays. Once there lived two friends called Barry and Gary. They were very good friends and did everything together. One day, they came to the city with the goal to earn money. They have heard about a very wealthy merchant and went to him looking for a job. The merchant gave each of them a cane basket. Then he pointed towards a well in his garden, saying, "Take these baskets and draw water from the well till dusk. That is your job." At that moment, Barry thought the idea to draw water in a cane basket was foolish, so he went to sleep. On the other hand, Gary took the basket and started working. After a few hours, when he drew the basket up, he saw some gold coins in the basket. He took the gold to the merchant. The merchant rewarded him and gave him a job too. Barry was stunned with what had happened, and he went away ashamed. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. The Ugly Duckling. This is the amazing story of a small duckling whom everyone thought he'd be ugly before he grew up to be something else. Away back on an old farm lived Mother Duck. She waited patiently day and night for her babies to hatch. One day, the eggs hatched and popped out 6 chirpy ducklings. But one egg was bigger and browner than the rest, and it didn't hatch. Mother Duck was confused. Did I count the eggs wrongly? I know I had 6 eggs. And in that moment, the last egg hatched. A strange-looking duckling with gray feathers that should have been yellow came out of the egg, staring at a worried mother. I don't understand how this ugly duckling can be one of mine, said the worried Mother Duck, shaking her head. The gray duckling certainly wasn't pretty, but he was eating far more than his brothers, and he was outgrowing them. As the days passed by, the poor ugly duckling became more unhappy. For starters, his brothers didn't want to play with him, and all the farmyard folks laughed at him because he was very clumsy. "My poor little ugly duckling, why are you so different from the others?" said his mother, and the ugly duckling felt worse than ever. He was so sad that he secretly wept at night, thinking, "Why am I different from my brothers? Nobody loves me. They all tease me." One day, he decided to run away from the farmyard. He wanted to ask other animals questions he couldn't understand himself. At the pond, he saw other birds and asked them, "Do you know of any ducklings with gray feathers like mine?" "We don't know anyone as ugly as you," answered the birds. Determined to find out the truth, he went to another pond where a pair of large geese gave him the same answer to his question. Traveling for days, he got himself near an old country farm. The farmer and his wife allowed the ugly duckling to live with them in hopes that the duckling would lay eggs for them to eat. But the ugly duckling laid not a single egg. Though the farmer and his wife had grown fond of the ugly duckling, they had no more room for him in their house. As he shut the door, he said through sadness, "Go find yourself a family that will love you." The ugly duckling hung his head and waddled far away from the farmer's house. Winter came, and the water in the reed bed froze. The duckling waddled over frozen bundles of sticks and frozen piles of dung. Even if all this waddling made him colder than ever, miraculously he survived the cold winter. With spring, all of the frozen ponds melted, and as he approached a crystal clear pond, he saw a family of the most beautiful birds he had ever seen, swans. He wished so much to join them, but he didn't even dare to ask them, for he knew he was surely too ugly to live with these beautiful birds. Unexpectedly, a swan gracefully glided through the water over to where the ugly duckling was sitting. My, your feathers are the finest I've ever seen. How they gleam in the sun!" the swan exclaimed to the ugly duckling. Confused, the ugly duckling wandered to the water and peered at his reflection. "Goodness, how I've changed! I hardly recognize myself." Much to his surprise, he was not an ugly duckling, for he was not a duck at all. He was a beautiful white swan with a long and elegant neck. He entered the water and joined his new family. One day, he heard children on the riverbank shouting, "Look at that young swan! He is the most beautiful swan I've ever seen." He was filled with so much joy and happiness that he almost burst. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in the middle of a thick forest, stood a small cottage, the home of a pretty little girl known to everyone as Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mommy said to her, "Grandma is ill. Take her this basket of cakes, but be very careful. Keep to the path through the wood and don't ever stop. That way you will come to no harm." "Don't worry," she said. "I'll run all the way to Grandma's house without stopping." The little girl made her way through the wood, but she would soon forget her mother's wise words. "What lovely strawberries! All so red! Yummy! Just another one, and one more. This is the last. Then Little Red Riding Hood saw a butterfly and started to chase her. "I'll catch you! I'll catch you!" she called. Suddenly, she saw some large daisies in the grass. In the meantime, two wicked eyes were spying on her from behind the tree. "Where are you going, my pretty girl, all alone in the woods?" "I'm taking Grandma some cakes. She lives at the end of the path," said Little Riding Hood in a faint voice. When he heard this, the wolf, for it was Big Bad Wolf himself, politely asked, "Does Grandma live by herself?" "Oh yes," replied Little Red Riding Hood, "and she never opens the door to strangers."
"Goodbye. Perhaps we will meet again,"
replied the wolf, and then he looked away thinking to himself,
"I'll gobble the grandmother first, and then the grandchild."
Knock, knock. The wolf rapped on the door. "Who's there?" cried Grandmother from the bed.
It's me, your niece. I've brought you some cakes because you're ill," replied the wolf, trying hard to hide his gruff voice. "Lift the latch and come in," said Grandma. The wolf leaped across the room and in a single mouthful swallowed the old lady. Soon after, Little Red Riding Hood tapped on the door. "Grandma, can I come in?" she called. The wolf had put on Grandma's shawl and cap and slipped into the bed. "Open the latch and come in," said the wolf. "Oh, what deep voice you have," said the little girl in surprise. "The better to greet you with," said the wolf. "Goodness, what big eyes you have!" "The better to see you with." "And what big hands you have!" exclaimed Little Red Riding Hood, stepping over to the bed. "The better to hug you with," said the wolf. "Oh, what a big mouth you have," the little girl murmured in a weak voice. "The better to eat you with," growled the wolf, and jumping out of bed he swallowed her too. Then, with a fat, full tummy, he fell asleep. In the meantime, a hunter had emerged from the wood, and noticing the cottage, he decided to stop and ask for a drink. He had spent a lot of time trying to catch a large wolf that had been terrorizing the neighborhood. He peered through the window and saw the large wolf himself with a fat, full tummy snoring away in Grandma's bed. "The wolf! He won't get away this time." Without making a sound, the hunter carefully loaded his gun and gently opened the window. He pointed the barrel straight at the wolf's head and told him to spit out whatever he had inside his stomach. And so he did. Grandma and Little Red Riding Hood were finally out, safe and unharmed. Then the huntsman knocked out the wolf and took him deep into the forest where he wouldn't harm people anymore. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. Aladdin was a boy who lived in an eastern city with his mother, and he supported her by selling fruits in the market. He was very creative and clever boy. The palace magician saw that virtue in him, so one day he came to the market looking for him. "Come with me, Aladdin. I have something to show you," he said. The magician led Aladdin deep into the desert, and when they reached this immense cave, it was blocked by a massive rock. The magician began to say a spell, and the massive rock removed automatically. Aladdin was shocked. "Get into the cave and bring me the golden lamp,"
touch nothing but the lamp," said the magician. Aladdin was worried because the passage into the cave was very dark. The tricky magician saw his hesitation, and to encourage him, he handed him a ring with a big gemstone. "Take this ring. It will protect you if anything goes wrong." The cave overflowed with glittering gems and gold coins. Beneath a tree laden with treasures stood an old lamp. "This must be it. But why would he want something so old and worthless?" spoke Aladdin. He took the lamp, and when he got back, he called upon the magician to help him climb up the broken steps. "Give me the lamp," said the magician angrily. "Not till I get out safe," called Aladdin. The magician in anger slammed down the rock and locked Aladdin inside. His plan was to take the magic lamp just to himself and leave Aladdin behind in the desert. Aladdin stood there, thinking of a way to get out the cave, but nothing. As he was looking at the lamp, he tried to clean it by rubbing it, and all of a sudden a genie appeared before him, saying, "I am at your command. What do you desire?" Aladdin was frightened and confused. He was hesitating at the start, but then he decided to command the genie. Aladdin said that he wants to be set free from this cave and to be taken home to his mother. In an instant, he found himself at home. When Aladdin saw what genie's magic was capable of, he became very wealthy. One day, he came to the Sultan with magnificent gifts and treasures. "Your Majesty, I have come to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage," he said. The Sultan was very pleased, but Princess Jasmine was unimpressed by his treasures. She wanted a prince with a good heart. Aladdin asked Genie to help him, so Genie created a magic carpet and he took the princess on a ride through the sky. They had the most wonderful time together. Touched by Aladdin's kindness and beauty, Princess Jasmine decided to open her heart to him, and so she married him. The wicked magician came in the palace and realized that Aladdin had the magic lamp. He felt that the magic lamp should have been his and that Aladdin had stolen it from him, so he started to forge a plan on how to take the lamp. One day the magician came to visit Aladdin's palace when Aladdin himself wasn't at the palace. He disguised himself as a merchant. "I buy old lamps. I exchange old lamps with new ones," said the magician. Not knowing of the magic of Aladdin's lamp, Princess Jasmine exchanged the magic lamp with a new one. The magician's evil plan worked out perfectly. Now that he had the lamp, he wanted to use it to take Princess Jasmine and Aladdin's palace for himself. That was his plan all along. He commanded Genie to move Aladdin's palace to the desert along with the princess. When Aladdin returned home, he was shocked to see that everything has vanished. Then he heard that the magician was living far off in the desert in his palace with the princess. He took everything from him. He went to search for them in the desert, and when he got to the palace, the princess hugged him tightly. She told him what had happened, so they secretly slipped a sleeping pill into the magician's wine. Then Aladdin snatched the magic lamp from his belt and rubbed it. He ordered Genie to move the palace back to where it was and leave the magician alone in the desert. Aladdin was so satisfied and happy. "You have granted so many of my wishes. Now I want to repay you by giving you your freedom," said Aladdin. Genie was surprised. "Of all my many, many masters, not even one has ever wished for something from me. You are so kind." Genie got free, and Aladdin tossed the empty magic lamp into the sea. He lived out his days in happiness and love together with his beloved princess.
To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. Unhelpful friends. Bunny Rabbit lived in the forest. He had many friends. He was proud of them. One day, Bunny Rabbit heard the loud barking of wild dogs. He was very scared and decided to ask for help. He quickly went to his friend Deer. He said, "Dear friend, some wild dogs are chasing me. Can you chase them away with your sharp antlers?" The deer said, "That is right, I can. But now I am busy. Why don't you ask the bear for help?" Bunny Rabbit ran to the bear. "My dear friend, you are very strong. Please help me. Some wild dogs are after me. Please chase them away," he requested to the bear. The bear replied, "I am sorry. I am hungry and tired. I need to find some food. Please ask the monkey for help." Poor Bunny went to the monkey, the elephant, the goat, and all his other friends. Bunny felt sad that nobody was ready to help him. He understood that he had to think of a way out by himself. He hid under a bush. He lay very still. The wild dogs did not find the bunny. They went chasing other animals. Bunny Rabbit learned that he had to learn to survive by himself, not depending on his unhelpful friends. Moral of the story: it is better to rely on yourself than depend on others. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime. It's story time. The Selfish Horse. Once a trader had a donkey and a horse. Every day, he would load the donkey heavily and go to the city to sell things.
One hot day, the donkey started feeling dizzy. The trader saw that, so he asked the horse to take some of his load. However, the horse refused, saying that it was not his duty to carry loads. After a while, the donkey fell down and died due to the extreme heat. Then the trader put all the load on the horse's back and continued his journey. Moral of the story: one who does not help his friend in need will face problems by himself in the long run. To support us, please subscribe to Storytime.